the country's willingness to continue with some funding arrangement. Accountant General of the Federation, Samsudeen Ogujimi, made the appeal during a meeting with a delegation from the World Bank led by Mrs. Street Lane in Abuja. According to a statement issued by the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation and signed by Director of Press and Public Relations, Mr. Bawa Mokwa, the Accountant General said Nigerians deserve faster processing of funding requests, but because the facilities involved are loans that must be repaid and not grants. The Accountant General explained that delayed approvals often affect the implementation of government development programs and projects tied to the facilities. He urged the bank to shorten its approval timelines and ensure quicker disbursement of funds to support Nigerians' economic and development priorities.
National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress (APC), Felix Morka, has revealed that President Bola Tinubu's problem is time to deliver on his promise to improve the lives of Nigerians. Morka made the remark today while noting that President Tinubu's administration is working on improving the micro and macroeconomic situation in Nigeria. In an interview with newsmen, the APC National Publicity Secretary said those who are investing in Nigeria are sure that the money they are bringing in, the value is able to hold, adding that all the fluctuations witnessed for some time now is stable. He added that the healthiness of the macroeconomic effect and microeconomic conditions, he added that the healthiness of the macroeconomics affects microeconomic conditions, adding that the macro creates and eases the microeconomic conditions that makes life better for people. Moka noted that the president is now doing the right things and the only issue is struggling with time between gestation and delivery, adding that the delivery is becoming evident and will get better with time.
President and the Group Chief Executive Officer of Transnational Corporation (PLC), Owen Omogiafo, has said the federal government has commenced repayment of long-standing debt owed to power generation companies. Omogiafo described the move as the most significant progress yet in resolving the liquidity challenges in Nigeria's electricity sector. Omogiafo disclosed this in an interview with journalists on the sidelines of the company's 20th annual general meeting held in Abuja today. The development signals early implementation of the federal government intervention to clear legacy debt, finalized about 3.3 trillion naira owed to generation companies and gas suppliers, a long-standing issue that has constrained liquidity across Nigerian electricity supply industry. Omogiafo noted that despite persistent challenges in the sector, including gas supply constraints and transmission infrastructure gaps, the group has continued to deliver strong performance. She stressed that the company remains focused on managing these constraints while leveraging opportunities within the sector.
Meanwhile, as Nigeria continues to grapple with persistent electricity challenges, stakeholders are calling for urgent reforms in the power sector to guarantee stable and affordable electricity supply across the country. The call formed part of discussions on BCO's radio current affairs program, Oluyole, where analysts examined the challenges before the newly appointed Minister of Power, Mr. Joseph Tigbe. BCOS reporter Abimbola Shawande compiles the story, which is presented by Olubumi Lawal.
Despite several reforms and investments in the power sector over the years, millions of Nigerians continue to experience unstable electricity supply, frequent system collapse, and rising energy costs. Speaking on BCO's radio program, a public affairs analyst, Mr. Segun Oke, attributed the nation's persistent power challenges to the centralized electricity structure, describing it as outdated and ineffective. He advocated greater participation by state governments and private investors in electricity generation, transmission, and distribution, stressing that decentralization remains key to achieving stable power supply.
There is no miracle he can come and perform now. The best thing I want him to do is to disintegrate the federal grid. Encourage every state government and local government to start their own power generation. And all this obsolete wire, all this obsolete transformer, all this obsolete material they are using to distribute light, they are all old. They are serving 10 houses before. Now the houses are 1,000. It can't serve us again. We should be realistic with what we are doing. Let him think of expanding and rebranding those materials. They are old.
He also expressed concerns over the capacity of the newly appointed Minister of Power to effectively tackle the sector's challenges, noting that technical expertise and long-term planning are essential for meaningful reforms.
I want the new Minister of Power to work with those who are within that ministry. He must not push anybody away. He should use those people in that establishment to achieve his aim. Else he will come out again with nothing.
Also speaking, a defunct NEPA official, Comrade Akinbodu Shedrack, noted that many facilities within the power sector have become obsolete and can no longer meet the increasing electricity demands of the country. He maintained that the current central grid system has outlived its usefulness in modern power management.
Electricity should be generated, distributed, and transmitted by the states. If the government can do it, and an individual that have the financial resources can do it as well. So there is nothing stopping anybody from having an independent power plant and to generate electricity and give to the state, because it has been removed from the exclusive list to concurrent list. So I don't think we should not put everything on federal government. They cannot generate more than 6,000 megawatts, and which is not even enough for us. So let us generate by ourselves, so that we will use federal government own as backup.
Comrade Shedrack also dismissed the proposed involvement of a Chinese company in managing the national grid, insisting that state governments should instead invest in independent power generation using available resources.
The basic fact today is for each state, local government, individual that has the financial power to generate electricity for us, transmit and sell it for us. Electricity is not free, and we should have it at the back of our mind. Even those people that travel out of the country, are they using it free? Are they not paying their bills? So Nigeria should not be different.
The stakeholders agreed that addressing the country's electricity crisis requires deliberate reforms, increased investment, and a decentralized power structure capable of meeting Nigeria's growing energy demands.
The Assistant Inspector General of Police, Zone 2, Oluyole Jimoh, has reiterated that the disbanded Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, no longer exists in any form within the police structure. Videos of police officers involved in altercation with civilians have been circulating online following the recent shooting of Mene Ogidi, a 28-year-old man in Eforon Delta State. According to him, former SARS officers were not dismissed from the police because they were conventional police officers and general duty officers, but were instead redeployed to different units within the force. He also explained that extensive reforms and retraining programs had been carried out following the disbursement of the controversial unit with the involvement of international human rights organizations. He further addressed the recent videos circulating online of police officers mistreating people, saying most of the videos resurfacing are old videos from as far back as 5 to 6 years ago. Despite this, he disclosed that the Inspector General of Police had established a high-level committee to investigate all viral videos and determine whether any recent abuses were involved.
Troops of Sector 2 under the Joint Task Force Northwest, Operation Fasanyama, have recorded another major breakthrough in the ongoing military campaign against terrorism and banditry in the Northwest. The troops noted that it neutralized armed terrorists and recovered a significant cache of weapons and ammunition during a coordinated fighting patrol in Zamfara State. Military authorities said The latest success underscores the renewed momentum of security operations aimed at dismantling criminal networks and restoring stability across communities ravaged by years of violent attacks, kidnappings, and rural insecurity. According to a statement issued by the Media Information Officer of the operation, Lieutenant Colonel Aliyu Danja, acting on operational intelligence and sustained surveillance efforts, the troops embarked on an aggressive fighting patrol designed to deny terrorists freedom of movement and disrupt their activities within the affected corridors. Military sources confirmed that 3 terrorists were neutralized during the encounter, while several others escaped with varying degrees of injuries into nearby forests. He assured citizens that security forces would remain resolute in their mandate to safeguard lives and property while intensifying operations against all threats to national peace and security.
Meanwhile, there was pandemonium this morning at Ingbra's Zongo community, called District of Bassa local government area of Plateau State, as unknown gunmen reportedly killed at least 13 persons in fresh attack. It was gathered that several residents sustained varying degrees of injuries. A resident, Mr. Philip Alanga, told journalists in Jos that attackers invaded the community at about midnight, opening fire indiscriminately before attacking residents with machetes and other dangerous weapons. Mr. Alanga said the assailants moved from house to house, targeting innocent residents and leaving a trail of death and destruction. Confirming the incident, Secretary General of the Irigwe Development Association, IDA, Mr. Danjuma Auta, described the attack as barbaric, tragic, and condemnable.
This broadcast of Newscope comes to you from the Broadcasting Corporation of Oluyole State, Ibadan. Nigerians have been urged to build a national consensus towards addressing the growing security challenges confronting the country ahead of the 2027 general elections. The call was made by a security scholar at the University of Ibadan, Dr. Oluyole, and a public affairs analyst, Mr. Adesumbo Badejoku, while discussing the topic Rising Insecurity and the 2027 polls on the Broadcasting Corporation of Oluyole State Current Affairs Breakfast Program, AM 120. BCOS reporter Fedora Afolabuyi brings the details.
As Nigeria gradually approaches the 2027 general elections, rising insecurity across different parts of the country has continued to generate concerns among citizens, political stakeholders, and security agencies. There are growing fears that persistent violence, unrest, and criminal activities may negatively affect political stability, voter participation, and the credibility of the electoral process. Speaking on the program, a security scholar at the University of Ibadan, Dr. Oluyole, said insecurity during elections is not new in Nigeria, noting that violence has over the years become a recurring feature of the nation's democratic process. Dr. Oluyole warned that the situation should not degenerate to a level where the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) would be unable to conduct elections effectively. It described the current political atmosphere as tense and hostile, but expressed optimism that the tension may reduce after political parties conclude their primary.
The only thing we pray is that the level of violence does not get beyond the one that INEC will not be able to, to organize the election. You will recall that even in 2015, in the pre-Buhari era, the election had to be suspended for a while for the environment to be settled and for INEC at that time to be able to organize an election. It's the same kind of pressure that was building up, at that time that we are experiencing now. And, by the end of the year, because the election is early next year, by the end of the year, we would have seen clearly the direction that will be going in the polls, and that will determine the outcome of the poll. So I think it's a normal thing.
Also speaking, public affairs analyst Mr. Adesumbo Badejoku observed that insecurity and politics have remained closely linked in Nigeria over the years. Mr. Badejuku maintained that meaningful progress may remain elusive unless politicians demonstrate genuine political will and stop politicizing criminal activities for personal or partisan gains.
And of course, if you go back to history, just as the first guest said, it's becoming a pattern. And that's why I said there's a direct link between insecurity in Nigeria and politics. 2014, Chibok. Before Chibok, there was Buniyadi. Those ones were massacred. Then the Chibok. 2018 again, eve of election, we had the Dapchi girls. You understand? We've been having that. We know the mass kidnap we saw under Jonathan. In fact, under Buhari. The moment Buhari became president in 2015, months after, we started the hype-up Wahala. Banditry began in the Northwest before we were dealing with elders in the Middle East and the Boko Haram crisis. So you find a situation where that there is heavy evidence of political undertone in the security situation that we are having in Nigeria.
The two analysts, however, appealed to the political actors to place national interest above personal ambition and party considerations, stressing the need to prioritize the welfare, peace, and security of Nigerians to safeguard the country's democracy ahead of the 2027 polls. Fedora Afolagwe, BCS News.
Owaneze Indigo community in Oyo State has pledged its undivided loyalty to the Oyo State government, led by Governor Seyi Makinde. They made their pledge during a courtesy visit paid to the Senior Special Assistant to the Governor on Community Relations, Mr. Celeste Nwosu, by the Owaneze Youth Wing, led by its leader, Barrister Chimaona. Staff reporter Bimisola Adebayo presents details of the event.
The visit by members of the Ohaneze Indigo Youth Wing to the office of the Senior Special Assistant to Governor Seyi Makinde on Community Relations, Mr. Celeste Nwosu, highlighted the growing relationship between the Oyo State government and the Igbo community residing in the state, led by their youth leader, Barrister Chimaona. The delegation, who described Oyo State as a peaceful and accommodating environment where people from different ethnic backgrounds live and carry out their businesses without fear or discrimination, commended Governor Seyi Makinde for his inclusive style of governance, which they said has continued to promote unity, peaceful coexistence, and equal opportunities for all residents, regardless of tribe or religion. The Owaneze youth leader, Barrister Chimaona, further reaffirmed the commitment of the Igbo community to support policies and programs of the present administration aimed at developing the state.
For the first time, since some of us came to Oyo State, we are given this opportunity of having a senior special advisor. It's something that, a gesture that we are not going to take for granted. Apart from recognizing us through you in his administration, he gave us a conducive environment to trade our businesses. You know, our people are 99% of us are businessmen and women. And if the environments are not conducive, we won't be able to do that. And he had made that environment conducive for us. And we trade, and some of us that are not even called into business, we have business that we have interest, and most of the time we stay there 11, 12 midnight freely. You hardly see it in another state.
Responding, the Senior Special Assistant to Governor Makinde on Community Relations, Mr. Celeste Nwosu, appreciated the Ohaneze youth for the visit and for their show of support to the administration of Governor Seyi Makinde. He reiterated the commitment of the state government to ensuring that every ethnic group in the state enjoys a sense of belonging, and further explained that the Makinde administration remains focused on promoting inclusiveness and strengthening relationships among diverse communities living in the state.
The governor have given us enabling programs to do our business. Gone are the days where our shop have been broken on daily basis, excessive tax and other things. And we should be able to, as youth, we should be able to talk to our people our people from outside Ibadan or your state for investment. At least we understand that here in Oyo State there is peace.
The Senior Special Assistant to Governor Makinde on Community Relations further noted that the Oyo State government recognizes the contributions of the Igbo community to commerce, economic development and social growth in Oyo State. Bimsola Adebayo, BCOS News.
The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has announced the commencement of online accreditation for media organizations ahead of a series of high-stakes by-elections scheduled for Saturday, the 20th of June 2026. In a notice released today on X, the electoral body urged interested media houses to complete their accreditation promptly through its dedicated portal, emphasizing that late applications will not be considered. The elections will take place across key constituencies nationwide, including the Dawaki Kudu Warawa Federal Constituency in Kano State and the Zuru State Constituency in Kebbi State. Other areas slated for the polls are the Ondo South Senatorial District, Rivers South East Senatorial District, Nasarawa North Senatorial District, and Enugu North Senatorial District. INEC described the accreditation process as a critical step in ensuring transparent and effective media coverage of the elections, which are expected to draw significant political attention across the affected regions. The Commission reiterated its strict stance on deadlines, warning that failure to apply within the stipulated window will result in disqualification from covering the elections.
Former President Goodluck Jonathan has challenged a suit filed by a lawyer, John Mary Gideobi, seeking to restrain him from contesting the 2027 presidential election. Jonathan, through his lawyer Chris Uche, told Justice Peter Lifu of the Federal High Court, Abuja, shortly after the matter was called for hearing. Uche informed the court that a letter of conditional appearance, a notice of preliminary objection, a counter affidavit and a written address had been filed on 5th of May, praying the court to dismiss the case. He said they got information about the case through the media and hence the need to file the processes urgently, given the importance of the matter, which boiled down to the eligibility of the former president to contest in the next election. The senior lawyer said it was unfortunate that such a suit was filed by a lawyer who should know that this same matter had been decided by the Federal High Court up to the Court of Appeal. Earlier, counsel of the plaintiff, Indubisi Okpai, informed the court that the matter was for mention when it was just being served by Jonathan's proceedings, adding that he would need more to respond. Justice Peter Lifu subsequently adjourned the matter to 11th May for hearing of the ex-president's objection and the substantive suit. The judge also ordered that hearing notices be issued and be served on INEC and the Attorney General of the Federation, AGF, the second and third defendants in the matter, who were not in court.
On the foreign scene, South African opposition leader Julius Malema has called on President Cyril Ramaphosa to resign after the Constitutional Court ruled that Parliament had violated the Constitution by blocking moves to impeach him. In 2022. The judgment follows a legal challenge by Malema's Economic Freedom Fighters EFF and others could result in fresh impeachment proceedings. In 2022, an independent panel had said Ramaphosa may have a case to answer after burglars stole $580,000 in cash hidden in a sofa from his rural home. The theft led to allegations that he had not accounted for where the cash had come from, with the president denying wrongdoing. However, impeachment proceedings were blocked 4 years ago in a parliamentary vote. At that time, Ramaphosa's African National Congress (ANC) had the majority in parliament, but since the 2024 general election, the ANC has been governing in a coalition. Following the judgment, Ramaphosa's office said he reaffirms his commitment to the constitution, the independence of the judiciary, and the rule of law. The statement said the president had been consistent in providing his full assistance to all inquiries into the matter.
To end this edition of Newscope, here again are the main points. The federal government has urged the World Bank to speed up the approval and release of project funds meant for Nigeria, warning that long delays could affect the country's willingness to continue with some funding arrangement.
There was pandemonium this morning at Nebra Zongo Community, Kwal District of Bassa local government area of Plateau State, as a non-gunman reportedly killed at least 13 persons in a fresh attack.
Oanizi Indigo community in Oyo State has pledged its undivided loyalty to the Oyo State government, led by Governor Seyi Makinde, during a courtesy visit paid to the Senior Special Assistant to the Governor on Community Relations, Mr. Tolest Nwosu, by the Oanizi Youth Wing, led by its leader, Barrister Chima Ona.
On the foreign scene, South African opposition leader Julius Malema has called on President Cyril Ramaphosa to resign after the Constitutional Court ruled that Parliament had violated the Constitution by blocking moves to impeach him in 2022.
That's all